Okay, we're tight for time, so I'll do some just very, very brief introductions from the top of the table. We have Helen Baker, who is Director of IT and E-commerce at Waterstones. Sitting next to Helen, we have James Chittenden, who's Head of Creative at Harrods. James heads up a team of 30 people now, and they're designers, copywriters, project managers, and he looks at all of Harrods' branded creative, including their marketing collateral, in-store point-of-sale packaging, and the iPhone app, which launched in May this year. Sitting next to James is Fraser Davidson, who's Director of the Javelin Group. Javelin are Europe's leading e-commerce and multi-channel retail consultancy and systems integrators, and Fraser runs their technology practice. Fraser's also going to be doing a presentation to us this afternoon as well. Sitting next to Fraser is Sien Veit, who is Head of New Technology Business at Marks & Spencer's. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly this time, Sien, because I think I got it wrong last time I introduced you at one of these events.
Yes, it's fate isn't worse than death.
Ah, fate, that's right. Why didn't I remember that? And finally, sitting next to Sien is Andy Tudor, who's Head of Multichannel Solutions for Aurora Client Services at Retail Assist. Aurora is the women's fashion brand retailer that look after Coast, Warehouse and Oasis. So please welcome your panel. Okay, quick trot through that. Let me just pick up on something that Gavin Merriman said as our first question. He talked about poor user experience being a barrier to mobile use. How do you think you can ensure your mobile retail experience delivers on the expectations of a multi-channel shopper? So what do we do about poor user experience, and how do we deliver on customer expectations? Helen, can I ask you to kick us off on this one?
So I think, the expectations are that any mobile experience shouldn't be too far reduced on the normal web experience or the experience they get in the shop. And previous speakers today have talked about how the whole experience needs to be seamless and that it needs to be consistent with any other way that the customer is interacting with the brand. But the biggest challenge we have, particularly with the size of our catalogue, which runs into millions, is ensuring that a customer can actually search and discover a product online and can then, did you hear any of that? And can then actually find enough information about the product to convert and make a purchase.
Okay, Fraser?
I think obviously it's important that you have a site that's optimised for mobile. It's also very important that the things that people can do on your traditional e-commerce site, they're able to do on your m-commerce site, because people get very frustrated when they're expecting an experience they've had previously. They try on a mobile device and they don't get it. You also have to think about the fact that despite the quality of signal that we tend to have these days, that mobiles do drop in and out of signal. So when you've got a user experience, you have to accept that people are going to drop away and need to be able to come back to where they were previously.
Andy?
I think there's nothing in particular to add to the rest of the panellists, really, other than to say that I think intuition's important as well. It needs to be intuitive to use. The user experience needs to be seamless. I think performance is absolutely key, and making sure that the traditional experience from the website is carried forward into the mobile space.
Okay. Then we were talking about is mobile going to be an advantage to bricks and mortar at the expense of e-tailers? Helen, let's start with you. Do you think that's the case? And how, particularly taking that to the positive, how can mobile help drive sales in a bricks and mortar environment?
Yeah, and I think I would take it to the positive in as much as it's almost irrelevant, the first question, because we have to do it. Customers want to shop by mobile. So we need to have a mobile strategy, and I don't consider our mobile strategy on its own. I consider it as part of a multi-channel set of services and set of ways for our customers to interact and consume content from us, basically. So it is very much a big opportunity because it can potentially convert a customer in the shop if you're giving them the right experience on the mobile there and then. Or it can convert a customer in the shop to buy on your online, or for us, it can convert them to purchase a digital format. So we have a whole sort of plethora of opportunities. As long as the service is seamless, it can very much just be part of our armoury in the way we talk to customers.
And James, I guess from your perspective, you've got the store, just the one. So how do you see it working in stores as a mobile as part of that experience?
The key thing for us, we didn't develop an app because we needed an app. We developed an app because the customer, we saw people wandering around the store with printed store guides and getting lost. We have it's a 19th century building. It's on 7 floors. There's 300 odd departments, and we stock 5,000 brands, I think it is. In a printed document, we couldn't particularly get that across to people, so it didn't really take a genius to see people wandering around with a printed store guide in one hand and a smartphone in the other to go, okay, let's try and find some way to bring the two of these together. So we developed the app that, using GPS positioning, can bounce people from where they are now to the brand that they want to get to. And if it's something like Burberry, I mean, they're in, I think, 8 different departments in the store, so it'll get you down to the area that you're interested in. But also we've got 30 restaurants, and they serve something like a total of 2,000 different dishes. The app allows you to search the menu for that restaurant before you have to go and find a printed one and book a table there. So for us, the whole bricks and mortar bit was the key driver.
Fraser, what's your view about how mobile devices can drive sales in the bricks and mortar environment?
It's quite interesting that we had 2 very different perspectives, and actually that's quite important in terms of deciding how to approach it. So, you have to think about your brand and why it is people are buying your brand, and also use analytics to understand what it is that people want to do with a mobile device. So, for example, if you have a highly desirable brand, then there's a very good chance that people are going to want to find your store, because they're going to want to find your brand. If you have more of a commoditized brand, it's more likely people are going to be using the mobile to do price comparisons. So our starting position is first understand what it is that people are using mobile devices for and how that relates to your brand, and then you can then go about your strategy based on that.
For us, it's mobile is an enormous opportunity to get up close and personal with our customers, because it's always there, it's always on. So for most customers, it's their alarm clock in the morning, and for us that means deal of the day. It means our emails. But it also means that it's really useful in a store environment from a service perspective. So we have customers tweeting us about what they're seeing in store, and we can respond directly to them. So it's an extension of the conversation that we're already having. It's very social, so we can see customers' propensity to behave in social ways, to access Facebook on their mobile phones repeatedly in the snack times in between what they're doing throughout their days working or at home. And that's really important for us, because we can become part of that social conversation. So more and more, as the phone becomes very much integral to customers' lives, it means that we as a brand can become part of that kind of seamless journey through their lives. So it's not so much about us, it's about the customer. And for stores, that means we extend that relationship outside of our stores.
Okay, Andy.
I completely agree with Sian. I think there are 2 sides to it. There's the opportunity for the in-store teams to assist the customer to make the sale, but also from a customer's perspective to self-serve to information as they embark on the journey within the store or on their own mobile device and convert that way. We've seen opportunities with our customers to actually provide customers with additional information in store about the product, to help them convert, to queue bust, to actually assist the customers in store to make that sale. So there's a plethora of different applications.
That cuts right the way across that experience, which plays to the earlier point, really. It's about it's not a channel by itself, it cuts right the way horizontally through the whole experience.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting. Do you have a sense, let's start at this end this time, that that on your mobile it should be offering, in a sense, a different experience, an edited experience, or should you be trying to offer the complete online experience on the device?
I think it's an interesting point. I think it offers up different opportunities depending on the brand, really. I think mobile, as per the web, can be a natural extension of products that are being held within a store. So our customer base predominantly are small format retailers, and the opportunity to demonstrate the extended R via the mobile is an opportunity that our customers are looking to take forward. Whereas perhaps with a larger format store like a Harrods or an M&S, the emphasis might be on something slightly different, I guess.
Do you want to pick up on that?
I think as mobile starts replacing fixed web consumption, I wouldn't want a cut-down experience. What I want is a better way to get to what I need to get to really fast. And I think customers would be disappointed with the cut-down experience. What we need to recognise possibly is how customers are using, give them the degree of flexibility they need to arrange their mobile web experience the way that makes sense to them. And I think this is the opportunity that HTML5 affords us for customers to see a view of the mobile web that they choose to see. And we're seeing that more and more in some of the apps, especially news apps. And that's, for us, very exciting, but I don't think we should cut down the experience at all.
But could you envisage a situation where the customer cuts down their own experience? So when I'm mobile, I only want to see clothing, I only want to see food.
I think that's a personalised experience and a highly targeted experience based on you as a customer and your preferences. But those preferences should be set up by you as the customer, not dictated by the brand.
Now, famously, Harrods' cable address used to be everything London, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Our company motto is all things for all people everywhere. Strictly speaking, that's probably not true these days. Certainly for m-commerce and e-commerce channels, there are a lot of luxury brands that just refuse to let their products be sold online. For a Louis Vuitton or a Chanel, the experience in the store is integral to the purchasing of the product. So from our point of view, yes, we'd absolutely love to be able to offer everything from the store catalogue, but it's really not feasibly functional for us to do it.
We have a challenge that we're both commoditised and selling a product with an emotional investment, depending on the shopper and the occasion. But because I believe that the mobile strategy should be part of your seamless offer and engagement with the customer, then it follows that I think the catalogue should be the same and the experience should be the same, although you may modify the navigation and some of the emphasis potentially on where the shop sits on the mobile versus where the e-books sit on the mobile. But that's more about targeting than it is about actually changing the experience.
I'm just conscious, and again the point was made earlier, that the almost mobile has been given to the e-commerce team, because that kind of seems like a sensible fit. But actually, e-commerce was very much a standalone silo in many organisations. It didn't touch day-to-day operations, whereas mobile cuts right the way through. Have you found any issues or barriers to getting that kind of integration going right the way across the business in your organisation?
Well, I think traditionally, yes, in the same way that years ago, 10 years ago, maybe we had the same barriers with an online retail site and, a traditional high street set of shops. You're just having a similar conversation now, both with digital and physical products and mobile, multi-channel and e-commerce, how they all sit in together. But I think the key is, and I do think there is a much wider recognition now, that it is about the customer first and foremost interacting with your brand. Therefore, it needs to be seamless. Therefore, the organisational structure needs to be, fit in with that. You can't deliver a seamless experience from a siloed organisation.
Yeah, it just occurs to me that in some respects your e-commerce business could sit by itself, and there'd be a few issues like we touched on earlier with, if I pop into my local store but then buy online, does the store get credited with sales and all of that kind of stuff? But actually, it's nowhere near as intrusive to day-to-day operations of the store as potentially mobile would be, with people walking around with their devices, scanning QR codes and so on. So, as I say, that's what I'm fishing for there. Have there been any barriers? Have the bricks and mortars guys been resistant to it?
So they haven't been resistant. I don't think they've necessarily grasp the opportunity as quickly as I would like. But no, they haven't been resistant, and I do think you actually touched on it, which is, if you can incentivise the shops and the operational people to see that the sales are going, for example, against their bottom line, and there is no separate P&L for e-commerce, were you to do that, for example, then that immediately they can see the point that they're getting the sale instead of a competitor.